Hello and welcome to the Awakened Feminine podcast. I'm your host, 𝐀𝐧𝐝 Lee, and today I have the fabulous Andi Munsie with me. I'm so excited for our conversation because this is something I have not talked about on my podcast. I've had you on before. We've talked about periods, menstrual cycle, but this is something that I'm super excited to talk about. So before we get started, Andi, do you mind just sharing with us who you are, what you do, and where you're joining me from?
Well, thank you for recognizing my work and spreading the message. It's such a blessing. And so, yeah, I'm all about getting women to really pay attention to every hormonal change of their menstrual cycle because I've experienced it. I know it. Our hormones are dictating every part of our life, from our decision to our energy levels, our emotions, and they're actually like in charge of us. And so I want you to win at this game. And I've created the Alexa Where It's My Period 28-day challenge to really hone into the game and help you be in control of your hormones. So yeah, it's super exciting. And I'm Australian, but I'm calling in from Albania, which is just below Croatia and above Greece. So that's where I am today.
Yep, I love it. Aussies all around the world, like literally. So,
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Andy, what I'll love for you to share with us. So today, the topic that you've chosen to talk to us about is the birth control pill is making you masculine. And when I saw that title, I was like, ooh, this is interesting. Not talked about this on the podcast before. So it also made me quite curious as to, your journey with this, because obviously you've must have either seen it or experienced it yourself. So can you share a bit about your journey of why this topic is so important for you to, spread to the world?
Yeah. So growing up with my mom, because I feel that a lot of our conditioning comes from our parents, and especially as a female, it comes from our mother. So with my mom, I was so blessed to have a mother who felt so natural within her own physical body. However, her periods were irregular and she just, had them whenever and just rolled with it. Like nothing in her life changed. She just kept going and going. And so I took along that conditioning of my mom. I never knew when my period was meant to come. They tell you it's every 28 days, but I didn't have a conscious understanding of what that even meant. And so I remember having times when I was in summer in my denim shorts, being out with my friends, and I'd look down and I'd be like, oh, there's blood everywhere. I was so unconscious. So that's in my teenage years. Go into my 20s, again, super unconscious, no idea of no idea of anything of what these hormones mean, what it means to ovulate, what it even really means to have a menstrual cycle. All I knew is that you bled. That's all I knew. And so if you fast forward till I'm 31 and I read the first book in my life after reading so many spiritual books, being around the world, talking to women, um, this book, Sex Time Power by Dr. Leonard Shlain, with his research, found the first connection that a woman's menstrual cycle was connected to how the new moon revolves from one new moon to the next, and what the women back then in the caveman days, how they would align their life with the energies of the moon, which was in line with the 4 hormonal stages of their menstrual cycle. And that just blew my mind. That was my second spiritual awakening. It hit me in the heart. And I knew from that day on that if I'm 31, I was probably actually 32, learning about this at 32. How many women do not know this information? And so I just did a deep dive into all of this, into studying my body according to the 4 phases of my hormones and to the moon. I studied like a diligent scientist so I would be in flow and live my life consciously around the 4 phases and design my life around each of the 4 phases. So I know where my strengths and my weaknesses are, and I know how to communicate that to my husband. So, and now when you say because of the title about the birth control, like I was on birth control, again, so unconscious. And what I mean by that, I didn't pay attention to anything. I wasn't aware of how my body reacted to anything. That's how unconscious. When I look back, I just feel like I was a robot. I hadn't come into my body, into my spirit, into my authentic self, and this work changed my life. But I can say, because I did take the birth control with my boyfriend at the time, I like my emotions were so extreme. I had very violent outbreaks of anger. And when I look back at that, uh was that boosted, reinforced by being on the pill? Now that I know where the pill puts you in the hormonal stage, was that a result of that? So yeah, that's a bit about my background, of just about how unconscious it was and how this work has just made me super conscious, and the most amazing spiritual awakening that I've had in my life, that I've had to share it with others.
You were going to ask my experience was, and for me, when I went on birth control, it was actually for my skin. So I've struggled with my skin most of my life. I still do, but my doctor prescribed me birth control pill for my skin, and I remember taking it, and I was like, hold on a second. My emotions would go like, 1 minute I'll be happy, next minute I'll be angry. It was, I didn't
Mm.
even know. I was like, how is this possible? This isn't me. So I probably took it for 2 weeks, and I just went, I can't do this anymore. And as soon as I stopped, I was back to normal 𝐾𝐞. So that was the only time I took a birth control pill. However, I did have the injection, the one that stops you from getting your period, for about 3 months. Um, but yeah, I probably got it twice, and then I stopped it again. Like, yeah. So for me, those were my only 2 experiences of having birth control of any form. And from that point on, I really refused to have any more, because one, I just thought, well, it's unnatural to change your cycle. I'll just, deal with
Mm.
it, because that's kind of natural. So that's what I did.
Okay. Interesting. And did that, when you had the injection, um, it still made you feel not yourself again with your emotions?
I didn't notice it as much with that one, so that's why I went for 2 cycles of it. So about 6 months I was on that, but I didn't like that I didn't get my
Yeah.
period. For me, it felt unnatural, so that's why I kind of went back on. I know most people
Mm.
don't like having their period. Most women don't like having their periods because it's inconvenient. But for me, it was kind of like, I feel a bit weird not having it, and it doesn't really bother me that much, so I just stopped it.
Yeah. And so now we've got to really look at that word inconvenient, that we put on our menstrual cycle, and how women want to take that injection or anything so we don't have it. So, what's really happening there? Like, what comes to mind is 2 things. One is the vocabulary and understanding of what our menstrual cycle is trying to tell us. And number two, or did I just lose my train of thought? Is um, we just want to live in a fast-paced world where, you know, we just take a pill and just forget about it and it's over and done with. So yeah, there's a lot of work to be done around the menstrual cycle, and also our menstrual cycle is connected to our womb center, and how much do we hold energetically in there? How much wisdom do we hold? How much wounds do we hold? How much generational wounds do we need to that we hold that we need to heal? So there's a lot of energy in our womb centers, and what I'm seeing, if we have a negative attitude, it's going to manifest in our physical body, and you're going to come up with problems of you know, trying to deal with it, trying to get through it. You know, things are going to manifest like the PCOS, the PMDD, the endometriosis. And that is a real connection to the denial of one's femininity. Like, as women, we have this. We have it every month. Why don't we get ahead of the curve and accept it and embrace it? Because if you don't do the work now, there's going to be problems because you have denied the most feminine part of you as a woman. And I love
Yeah.
to share this example. I'm working with a client right now who's in her 60s. She's doing the 𝐿Exa Where Is My Period 28-day challenge, but as a menopause woman, it's Menopause Insight 28-day challenge because it's that connection to the moon cycle. And we all know that women traditionally, when we're connected to the moonlight and the sunlight, would bleed under the new moon and ovulate under the full moon. And I believe today that even women in menopause can really connect back to their cycle that they once had, that they never knew, and start healing what's energetically still in their womb center. And this is a tool that they can use. So with this client that I'm working with, she hated being female, hated it. When she was little, she was like, God, why did you make me a female? Then she had an incident with her mother where, and remember, she's old, like she's probably 65, back in America, like in the olden days that we can't imagine, where women were at their traditional roles and her dad had gone away. And the mum was driving the car, but she didn't know how to put petrol into her car, which meant she was late for picking up this lady when she was in primary school. And that really scarred her for life. And she saw how weak her mother was in that situation. And she was hurt because she didn't know where her mum was. She was waiting, and she found out that her mum didn't know how to put gas in the car. So she said from that day onwards, she never wanted to be a woman, and she would never have to rely on anyone but herself. Fast forward to her 30s, she has a hysterectomy. She has so many problems that she has to get everything removed in her early 30s. Then she's now gone on a spiritual journey of womb healing late into her 40s, and now and really finding out that there's so much healing that needs to be done in her womb center. And she's gone on this path, and now she's doing the Menopause Insight Challenge to even dive deeper into the cycle she never knew and to love the parts of her that she got removed. And now she loves being a woman. But she's 65 and she fought it her whole life. You know, like, oh, that story just pulls my heart so much.
Well, better late than never with everything, right?
That's a good attitude. That's a good attitude to have. Yeah, I'm finding that the women in menopause now are at a time in their life where their children have left. They have more time on their hands where they can now do this work and grieve for the cycle that they didn't know and go through it. But I encourage your listeners, if you are a menstruating woman, to do this work now so that you can, on the spiritual level, guide yourself through the transition of perimenopause and menopause in a more gentler way, without having these huge uproars and chaos in your life because you never paid attention to your menstrual cycle, which is like the fifth vital sign for women. It's so important to have that healthy, regular cycle because that means that your body is healthy, your mind is healthy, and your spirit is healthy. It really is that fifth vital sign, and to really do the work now before you get to that stage in life.
Mm. It's so interesting as you were talking about like women that have PCOS, because I had PCOS before before became a mum. I had PCOS, and some I think generally once you get pregnant, your PCOS kind of subsides or something happens. But I also had endometrioma, and it was, I think, very much to do with me suppressing my feminine, which, I was quite masculine in everything that I did prior to me going on my spiritual journey. Now, Andi, I want to ask you, you talked about at the beginning when you were talking about your journey with birth control and your menstrual cycle and discovering that is connected to the moon cycle, which you found out at 32, but I didn't find out until 40 when I met you. So it's been, a long while for me to get that information. But can you talk a bit about how the birth control pill affects our menstrual cycle and why it makes us more masculine?
Yeah. Okay. So first, I have to paint a bit of a picture because we have to go to the hormonal changes, the 4 hormonal changes of our cycle to get the bigger picture before I dive deep into the hormonal birth control. So, here we start out the first day of our cycle every month is at our menstrual phase, which we all know. And that's like our winter phase of the cycle. So, this is when all our hormones drop, our estrogen, our progesterone, our testosterone, because our body didn't produce a baby. And now, this is what your listeners need to really understand is that our body, just on a physical level, just wants to make a baby. That's all it wants to do every single month. And it will do anything to make sure that happens. And that's why these other hormones will work with it and give it superpowers to make sure that that egg is going to get fertilized. Like when you think of that's all the body wants to do, and that's what it's dictating you to make happen. It is just, I find that wild. Such a wild statement. Anyway, so we finish our bleeding and then we head into our follicular phase. So this is our spring phase of our cycle. So our estrogen is starting to rise, our testosterone is starting to rise. So when we're really like in sync with our hormones and there's not too many stresses in our life and we're in flow with life, this is when we just feel so positive for life. We're excited, we're enthusiastic. This is when you have the most energy of the cycle. You just want to get your to-do list out and start ticking off all the actions you've done, and like make sure that your goals start happening and taking action towards them. And I said that this is the most masculine time of your cycle because you just have that drive and you just want to be out in the world and you can just keep going, and you got that that confident energy. And so then we head into ovulation. And so then this is, peak testosterone, peak estrogen. And so the egg is looking to get fertilized. And yeah, these are the energies associated with summer. So you're more social, you want to socialize, you want to connect, you want to be around others, you want to serve others. And it's when you feel really good on the inside and you can look in the mirror and just go, wow, I look really good. My skin's clear. My hair's the best that it like ever can be. Like it's just sitting well at the moment. And people can actually really notice that, and you're actually putting off pheromones, in your ovulation phase, to attract the other partner. And so then the body thinks that the egg's going to get fertilized, and then we head into our luteal phase, which is our PMS phase, or our the autumn fall phase of our cycle. And so what's our body trying to do there? It's trying to protect the egg. It thinks it's going to get fertilized, or it got fertilized, and it's doing everything to protect it. That's why, on a physical level, like we're going to get angry and irritated and vulnerable and sensitive, because on the physical level, our body is protecting the egg. It just wants that egg to get fertilized. And then we head up here and the body goes, you didn't get fertilized. Damn it. Let's start the cycle again and do that same pattern over and over again until that egg gets fertilized. So that's how I like to explain it. What do you think when I say that? How the cycle flows, with the 4 changes.
I love that, because when I, did your 28-day challenge, it made so much sense as you were talking about the spring, summer, autumn, winter, and how it correlates with, the menstrual cycle and each of the phases, because it's exactly like that. As you say, when you're in your follicular phase, you've got more energy. Ovulation is like, yes, my skin's glowing. Luteal, you're tired and you just want to kind of, you want to be cozy and at home. And menstrual phase, which is where I am at the moment, is just like, I just don't really want to do anything and just rest. That's the phase where you're really nurturing and looking after yourself even more. So I love the way you explain it. It makes it really easy. And this is stuff that should be taught at school. Yes, okay, we want to learn the biological and the clinical side of things, but that's the problem. We don't get the feminine, the emotional side of things, so that we can actually work with the cycle instead of our cycle working us, where we're like, oh, it's our period again. Like, this is stopping me from doing that. It's kind of like flipping that script. So I love the way you talk about it. Yeah.
I love that, flipping the script. It really is. And having that, the vocabulary to understand each of the phases, and especially when you get into this PMS phase and the menstrual phase, what it actually means. Like, these are the most intuitive times for a woman. This is when you really need to carve out the alone time, do your meditation, start journaling, being in nature, start walking by yourself, start asking the deep questions, of what you need in your life, because this is where it's at. And with those PMS emotions, like, you need to really be looking at what's happening in your life. Why are these PMS bombs, truth bombs happening? You need to flip that vocabulary, because there's truth behind it. And it might just be as simple as you don't have enough alone time. You didn't get enough rest. It could be as simple as that, but there could be bigger truths on why you're acting out and why there's so much chaos in this PMS time, and where the healing needs to take place in this, so you can keep cycling healthily around the cycle. So yeah, that was one of the biggest things that changed for me, was changing my vocabulary and giving myself permission to not feel guilty when I rested, because I had a mum that just went 24/7, like no rest. You just keep going. You have to be productive every day. There's so much to do. Like, she didn't have any knowledge of this, any self-care, vocabulary around this, or just not even around this, just in normal everyday life. And that's what changed my life. Yeah, so we'll get into the birth control. But there is one thing that I want to say is, like, this is so great. I'm so glad that you're tuning in and listening to this information. But we live in such a fast-paced, society today. Like, when you get like astrology readings or even amazing quotes, or you're just flicking that up going, yeah, that's amazing, amazing. Yep, that's cool. I really get that. Yep, I really resonated with that. It just goes. The same is with this information. You're going to get it on one level, but if you're not doing the work and actually consciously living every day of your cycle, it's just going to come in and just fly away. Like, you really have to do the work with this. And another thing before I get into the birth control is, this is just information. You need to go do your own research. You need to find out what works for your body. And this information has really, blown my mind, because I really understand the hormonal changes now, and I live it every single day. And now we're going to bring how the birth control works in all of this. But yeah, do your own research. Go look up Dr. Sarah Hill and Dr. Jolene Brighton for more information to make the most informed choice for you and your body. So, yeah, I just wanted to say those two things.
Nice. Thank you, Andi.
Cool.
So, how does the birth control pill affect our menstrual cycle? Tell me now.
Tell me now. Okay, so like I said, your body just wants to have a baby. So we take the artificial drug because we don't want to have a baby. You know what I mean? So there is no ovulation, summertime energies there. There is no wanting to naturally connect with others. There's no jump in your natural estrogen and testosterone, which gives you the libido to have amazing intimate times with your partner. There's no natural pheromones that attracts the right husband for your genes to have the most healthy, successful baby. That is crazy, which means that there's no summertime boys that you find attractive, because this artificial drug is masking all that natural estrogen and testosterone. It doesn't want you to have a baby. That's why we take it. So that's that. Then there is no springtime energies of your follicular phase, because that can't happen because we can't have a baby. There is no, with your mind's trying to discern the best partner, the best mate that's going to be the best genes for your baby. There's none of that. You can't have that. And so you can't have that natural excitement for life, that natural want to be out in the world, the natural go-getter energy, ticking off your to-do list, taking action on your soul goals. There's none of that. That's all gone. Then there's no menstrual phase. So there's none of that more intuitive, where we're most intuitive, where that veil's unlifted, where we can receive the downloads that are meant for us. That's all gone, because the pill is masking all of that. What the pill wants you to do is stay here in your luteal PMS phase 24/7, 365 days per week. So you are just like a man, because really a man, in a way, is like this. He doesn't have the emotions like a woman that goes round, or the energy levels that go round in a circle every month. We are different. We are built differently. And so you are stuck here in the PMS phase. So what does that mean? You're very sensitive, emotional, can irritate easily, and vulnerable. And so why I say you're in your masculine phase is because of that linear timeline that you just put in that phase by the pill. And also because when you're irritable, when you're in that anger mode and sensitive, you're more combative. You're more easily ready to fight. And that's a masculine quality, that is not a feminine trait. And so, yeah, you want to be, to be feminine with your natural hormones means being able to ebb and flow with all these different gifts of each of the 4 hormones. And so if I take you back to what I said, there's no natural pheromones. So here remember, it's a drug, it's an artificial drug. You are going to be attracted to a certain type of man, and it possibly isn't the best for the successful genes of your baby, because your natural pheromones have been masked here. So, you're going to be attracted to all these, I call them the autumn guys. They could be quite in their more feminine than masculine, because when you're in your natural, you're attracting a man in his masculine, and then you're the feminine, and then you like gel together and you flow. We all have masculine and feminine energies, but and that's how we flow. But here you're attracted to a different kind of guy to if you're in a natural state. So that, I think, blows my mind. And I'll give you an example. I talked to a lady on a podcast in America the other day, and she loves her husband. He was the most funniest guy ever. She would laugh at his jokes all the time. They decided they weren't going to have kids, and so she went on the birth control. And she just remembered a few weeks in, she drove into a driveway and just went, I don't find my husband funny anymore. Don't find him funny anymore. And she quickly put together the dots that what had changed in her life to make that happen. And it was the birth control. And so she quickly got off it, and her relationship restored from that. So that is how powerful the birth control can be. And I'll give you another example. Is women who get with their husband on birth control, they then get married, and then they have their children. But in that time she gets off the birth control, there is a high possibility, and it's been documented, that she is no longer going to find her husband attractive, because she was not in her natural state of hormonal flow in her ovulation phase when she met the husband. Like, that is how powerful this birth control is in how it's affecting the social landscape of relationships, and then also of the health of women. Like, there's not enough research into this drug in where we're going in society with infertility, and also with things that possibly could be happening with children, and symptoms that they're experiencing because of what the birth control is doing to a woman. Yeah, so it is a very fascinating subject to really look into.
Wow, Andi, my mind is like, what? This is absolutely, yeah. Well, it makes so much sense. Like, as you explained it, I was like, because at the beginning when you were explaining, I'm like, how does it make you more masculine? Because it's getting rid of the testosterone parts of, when we have the testosterone in our cycle, and there's no testosterone in the luteal. So I was like, how does it make, but then when you explained it, I'm like, it's the linear thing, and the aggression and things like that, which makes us more like masculine in that way. But also the whole thing around finding the right partner. And it
Yes.
now I'm like, is it because that we've had the birth, I can't remember how long we've had the birth control pills, is only quite in the recent, maybe 40 years, I don't know, I can't remember. But divorce rates have gone up. Divorce rates have gone up significantly.
Very good.
Yes. So it just makes me wonder, like, wow, that is so interesting. So interesting.
Yeah, that just gave me goosebumps. Like, to think that this pill, which was a revolutionary, what do you say, revolutionary drug for women, but there's actually been there's consequences, and it's in everything. Everything has a positive and a negative, you know what I mean? It's always the way. But yeah, there is a lot of societal conflicts, consequences coming from this, and a lot of dots need to start being, connected. And also with that, it's about your feminine attraction, you're not naturally feminine to a man, on that biological level, if you're on the pill. And
It's very
also to really think
interesting.
about the success of the genes of the baby. That is very interesting.
Do
Very,
you know
very
if there's any
interesting.
documentations around like the success of the genes of the when people are on birth control or not? Like, how does that play out?
So they're starting to what I've read is they've connected the dots to possibly like autism, like things like that could be a result
Yeah.
of the mother being on birth control and then the father coming in and their genes don't match, and that has occurred in the baby, just in his example. But that's why I
Yeah.
encourage, the listeners to go do your research and figure it out for yourself, this is what
Yeah.
I've come across, which resonated with me and my understanding. And that was from the Dr. Sarah Hill and Dr. Jolene Brighton. So yeah, very interesting
Yeah.
women to go look up on YouTube and do a deep dive and get really smart on it.
Yeah. And what I love about our conversations is that it opens up more conversations and it opens up people's minds to explore things that we've been taught and to start questioning whether they were right or wrong for them. Like you said, do your own research. Our conversation will resonate with some and may not resonate with others, and that's completely fine. You believe what you want to believe, but it is here to
Yep.
start conversations and start you questioning, going, is this the truth? Okay, let me go have a look. And that is what is very important here, because we've been fed a lot of information, in our lives that have been proven to not be true, or, so it's important that we start questioning things. Yeah.
Yeah, and also for the mothers with daughters out there, like our culture has conditioned us to go to the doctor with any irregular periods or any problems as a young 13-year-old girl and get straight, or for acne, and get straight on the pill. And I would encourage you, before you go to that step, as young as they are at 13, 14, 15, to start hormonal mapping with them, getting them to understand these 4 hormonal changes and look at this approach first, and then go into, talking to your doctor, because hormonal mapping isn't, the female doctors don't even do this. They don't even know this wisdom. And this is where it needs to start. I'm not if you need to take it, and that's the step that you decide, your choice, go for it. But it needs to start here before you go on to the next step. So yeah, I just encourage the mothers and do it with your daughters, do hormonal, know your own body, and step into this way of living. It's so powerful. I know I'm biased. But it really was a major awakening in my life, and I want that for you as well.
What I found in my journey is that, well, as you know, I used to practice as a pharmacist. I don't anymore, but it is true that whenever if you go in for acne, the pill would be one of the choices for treating acne. But I really believe, now that I've left the profession, like seeing what my seeing the profession in a different pair of eyes, definitely I would look at the root cause first. And Western medicine
Yeah.
has its place, definitely, to help with symptoms and all those things, but unless you get to the root cause, nothing's ever going to change. And that is that is something that I just really want to drum into people all the time, is like, you can take antidepressants, for example, but that's, yes, then that will help you cope and that will, mask symptoms, and that's great. But you still need to be doing the work behind to get to the root cause. Same thing with your menstrual cycle. You can take the pill to help you with symptom control, but it's not going to heal itself if you don't look at the root cause and look at that. So yeah, I love that. Hormone mapping. Can you talk a bit about, so hormone mapping is pretty much kind of doing the 28-day challenge that you kind of do, because it pretty much does. Can you talk a bit more about that for me, so that people that don't know what it entails know what hormone mapping is and how beneficial it is?
Yeah. So, yeah, hormonal mapping is basically living every day of your cycle and breaking it down into the 4 hormonal changes so that you can start really listening and understanding your body, really noticing its patterns. That's another big thing, is patterns. Something that happens on day 6 of your cycle could happen again on day 6 and the next cycle and 6. So you have these patterns that you need to pick up and be aware of. And so, yeah, what I want to do is take women to consciously every day of their cycle, and also then, give them the textbook definition of what each phase means so they can start connecting the dots. And then you just have to keep going with it, because it can't just happen once. You have to just continually keep going if you want to go deeper and you want to make it part of your lifestyle and really understand, who you are according to each of these 4 phases. So yeah, that's about it in a nutshell. It's just getting you to pay attention, and connecting to the dots to what that phase means and what's happening in your body, and documenting it, because without bringing in the documentation part of it, you would just easily forget it. And I know most of your listeners out there are highly intuitive, just like you, Kaki. And as women, we are intuitive. Like, we know, things. You know that, yeah, I'm craving chocolate, I must be in my PMS time, or I've got real, things. But if you're not documenting it and bringing the masculine into this process, it's just going to go away, and you don't have a starting point to then track your next cycle and then your next cycle, because that's where the real work starts. You have to keep going to get to a real understanding of who you are according to these 4 phases.
Mm. So for women who are already on the birth control pill, is there any way of them, like, and they don't want to get off the pill in this moment, is there any way of them tracking it, or is it completely gone? Like,
No.
no.
You can't do this on the birth control, because you're not experiencing those the rise of the estrogen and the testosterone, the peak of it, the fall of it, the progesterone rising. You're just here in that luteal phase.
Mm. So, okay, question. So there's the sugar pills in some women don't continuously take the pills, like all the hormone pills. So then they have
Yeah.
the sugar pills, so they do bleed. So then how does that affect? So they do have the menstrual, but then they won't get the follicular and the ovulation phase.
Yeah, so do your research, but this is my understanding of it. So you think this is, and they're so smart how they've designed this pill. Really, they are. So when you take the sugar pill, you're going to get a menstrual, your bleed. It's not a real bleed. It's called a withdrawal bleed of the hormones that are in the pill. But what it's psychologically doing is thinking that you had an actual period. There was no egg that went into the lining of the womb center and broke down, and your womb broke down to give you the real bleed of a menstrual cycle. It is all fake.
Oh, yes.
It is I don't know,
Yeah.
does that make sense? It's a
Yeah,
withdrawal
that
of
makes
the
sense.
hormones
Even
from the
yeah,
pill.
yeah, that makes sense
Yeah,
because it's when even like clinically, biologically, that makes sense because there was no other phase to go through. Yeah. Okay.
yeah. But
So
that's very
also
smart
these are
because if
oh,
you're doing it and you're if you're unconscious to this and you're just taking it and you get that, you just think you're having a period. And you would just go, oh, my body's normal. It had a period, and I keep taking the pill. I won't get pregnant. I took the sugar pills. Here's my period. I'm normal. I'm normal. Do you know what I mean? It's very smart. Very smart.
mm, yeah, well that also makes sense then because when people that have the hormone hormonal like implants and things like that, they get the spotting, and that's to do with the hormones rather
Mm.
than you're getting a menstrual cycle, like a menstrual period as well. So that kind of all makes sense. So then this question also kind of popped into my head. So if there's kind of like stuck in that luteal phase, and usually when we're in our luteal phase we're more tired and more grumpy, so
Mm.
would they, like you mentioned that they will be more combative because they're but would they also keep having that tiredness as well, so they're just
Possibly,
constantly tired?
possibly weight gain.
mm,
Weight gain. And then it's also for the people that are on the pill or thinking of taking the pill, like all I encourage you to do is when you take it is to really look how your body's reacting. Some bodies may be able to take it easily and there's no reaction, you know what I mean? But other people bodies, women's bodies could take it and there you can really see the reactions, the weight gain, the don't not feeling like myself, tiredness, more, my mood swings are all over the place. um
mm,
Blood clotting. If you go on forums on Facebook about the pill and the problems that women are having, it is extreme the way some women are reacting to the pill, their bodies are reacting. So please, when you take any pill, just really pay attention. And I wasn't aware of this when I took it. I didn't even know about this, but just encourage you to really pay attention to what's happening in your body when this happens.
mm. Thank you, Andy. This has been such a like eye-opening conversation. Like I said, we've never talked about this on our podcast before, and I just love, getting a different perspective and and to things that we don't think about as well, because the pill is so common, and so many women take it that we don't even think about these things. And the fact that we don't even, like, I went through pharmacy school, I never got taught the spring, summer, autumn phases of my cycle. It was very clinical, but to have that perspective really adds that layer and that additional layer of understanding to myself and my period. And like I
Mm.
said, when I did the 28-day challenge, it was life changing for me. I was like, oh, this is what this is what my menstrual cycle is. It was the best thing that I did. So I thank you for that, Andy, so much. um I'm just kind of looking at the time, and I wanted to ask you, you know what you would like our listeners to take home with them from our conversation today. It could be something that you talked about already and just really, taking it home, or it could be something completely different. Do you have something that you really like our listeners to take home with them?
Just that your body is alive and is highly intelligent and it is guiding you in every moment of the day. And you want to connect mind, body, and spirit in every moment to know exactly what you need in every given moment, in what action to take, and be guided by it, and live in flow. I just encourage you to pay attention and really listen, because all the answers lie within you. You know, you have all the answers. We come from so many different backgrounds, different parent upbringings, different cultural experiences. But you have to peel away all the layers and find out what your body, your spirit wants you to know, and how to live in harmony with it. Yeah, I think so.
Thank you. I love that take home message. And yeah, it's so important, everything that you just said. So thank you for that, Andi. Um, so if people want to know more about you, or, how they can work with you, where is the best place to go?
Probably Facebook under Andi Munsie. Yep, I'm there. So send me a message or look at some of my posts, and yeah, let's connect and yeah, have a conversation.
Awesome. Yay. Thank you so much, Andi. This has been such a great conversation. I mean, I love chatting to you, as you know, and thank you for, sharing your knowledge and wisdom and your experience with us.
No, thank you, 𝐾𝐲. Thank you for having me on again. And yeah, sharing this message with your audience is a true blessing. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.